Greetings, I'm Felicity and I'm 37 years old. I'd like to share a fascinating story about how I handled it quickly because, despite what many stories I've heard, I had a good relationship with my mother in law before everything fell apart. Our bond was smooth, full of warmth, perfection, and mutual respect, and my husband, Frank, was my best friend, my partner in crime, and the love of my life. From my point of view, everything seemed picture perfect. Isn't a delusion or a mistake on my part. Sure, we had our disagreements like any other family, but there were no warning signs, and everything appeared to be going smoothly. However, the unexpected turn of events that transpired left me perplexed. So allow me to recount the incident and explain why I decided to exact revenge on my husband and mother-in-law. I had originally intended for our family to go on a special vacation together, but given Tiana, my widowed sister in law, and her loneliness, I had decided to include her. I paid for the majority of the trip, including lodging, meals, and activities. Frank and Tiana were only responsible for their extra costs. The goal was to give them a once in a lifetime vacation in Spain, exploring the lively streets of Barcelona, enjoying tapas, and taking in the Mediterranean sunshine. The idea of making lifelong memories and deepening our relationship thrilled me, but I had no idea that this grand adventure would result in circumstances that, rewinding to that fateful day full of hope and promise for our Spanish dreams, I stood in the living room with plane tickets and a smile on my face, gathering Frank and Tiana. I told them I was surprised, and they exchanged puzzled looks and curiosity etched on their faces. Tiana, with her wise eyes, tilted her head slightly with a flourish. I then presented the tickets and shared my plans for our Spanish adventure, hoping that, to witness happiness and appreciation in their eyes, Frank's face brightened with genuine anticipation. Felicity, you are truly something else, he explained, adding that as I eagerly anticipated the start of our incredible journey. Tiana's smile softened and her gaze met mine. Oh, my sweet Felicity, you've truly outdone yourself. This is a gift beyond measure. I'm deeply touched, she said, and their reactions were as you might expect, this story takes a perilous turn beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect relationship. Beneath the surface, a complex web of deceit and betrayal lay in wait, ready to ensnare us all. When the truth came out, it would test the limits of forgiveness and validation of the love and effort I had put into this surprise. I had imagined this vacation as the glue that would strengthen our bonds, creating unforgettable memories and fortifying the already seemingly unbreakable ties. The first week went smoothly with the flavors of Pala, exploring historic landmarks, and dancing to the infectious rhythms of flamenco. I reveled in the belief that our bond was unbreakable, but I had no idea that it would be tested. As planned, we boarded the plane and began our 2-year adventure. The anticipation was palpable as we immersed ourselves in the vibrant streets and rich tapestry of Spanish culture. Confusion and a growing sense of unease gripped my heart as I woke up to an empty hotel room on a fateful Monday morning as the sun bathed the city in golden hues. Frantically, I reached for the phone and dialed both my husband's and Tiana's numbers in the hopes of receiving an explanation, but to my dismay, their phones remained silent, their voices absent, and fear started to claw at the corners of my mind as I searched the empty room for any indication of their presence. No notes, no bags, no signs of disruptions or struggle, just an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. It felt like I was abandoned in a strange place, and the minutes seemed to drag on forever as hopelessness threatened to overwhelm me. My phone buzzed, indicating an incoming call, and it was Tiana. I was confused and deeply hurt, wondering how she could leave without saying anything, and I answered the phone nervously. My phone was ringing nonstop, so I felt compelled to return your call. I apologize for disturbing you, but I was just wondering where you two went. Your bags aren't here, and I was wondering where you two went. Tiana's voice, tinged with a strange mix of resignation and frustration, reached my ears. It wasn't the same sweet voice I had always known, though. It sounded colder Felicity. I was worried that something had happened with a lack of concern that rocked me to my core. She then said, "We left you, but why? I couldn't stand to be with you for another week, so I had to leave. Did I do something wrong? I mean, how could you be so stupid? Excuse me, but you practically forced me to go on this trip with you. I couldn't be dishonest any longer, so let me be clear with you, Felicity. I don't enjoy your company. Yes, we can spend a few hours together at a family gathering, but for 2 weeks I tried to be polite and show you my presence for as long as possible. However, it turned out that I could only spend 1 week with you before I went insane. I apologize, but I'm currently traveling to the airport with Frank, so we can't be around you any longer. The realization hit me like a lightning strike, tearing apart the trust I had so carefully built. How could our seemingly unbreakable bond fall apart? Under the weight of unspoken grievances, questions raced through my head as I struggled with this harsh reality. What had I done wrong? How did things get to this point? Was there any chance for reconciliation? Confusion and heartache were entwined within me, and the pain of betrayal was seeping deep into my soul. To be honest, Chiana, I had no idea you felt this way, and you had no reason to. I'd always led you to believe that things were this way. If I'm being honest, I still don't know what I did to offend you. That's the thing I just can't put my finger on, but you just irritate me. That's the most childish thing I've ever heard. You can't stand me for no apparent reason. Grow up, Gianna. I thought I'd offended you or something, but I didn't do anything wrong. However, it doesn't matter. What matters is how I feel about you, and I think you're annoying, and I just can't stand being around you. If that's the case, then why did you agree to join us on this trip to Spain? It was a free one, and nobody would refuse that opportunity. But as the days passed, I became increasingly weary of your antics. What did I do, Tona, that was so awful that you chose to abandon me in a foreign country? Answer, and I became increasingly irritated with this sudden disrespect that came out of the blue. I was shocked, hurt, confused, and angry, but most of all, I was just sad that I had to ask about my beloved husband and what he had to say about all of this. Tiana handed the phone to Frank, assuming that he was Eve, and he answered with the same coldness and indifference as his mother. Hello, Frank, you chose to leave me too. Didn't leave you because I dislike you. Rather, I left because my mother needed me to take her home, so you were aware of everything. How long have you been aware of your mother's apparent animosity toward me? I thought this trip would help her get closer to you, but I was mistaken. What I don't understand, though, is why none of you approached me about it. We're all adults, so if there's a problem, we'll figure it out. It's not like we haven't had disagreements before. We just sat down and resolved those. The only conclusion I can safely draw from this whole stupid situation is that your mother hates me for a silly reason that she knows isn't valid. Perhaps she's jealous of me or something, and she knows she can't speak up about it without sounding foolish, so she's beating around the bush. Am I correct in assuming that their resounding silence affirmed my belief that this time Frank failed to answer, mirroring his mother's earlier silence? I can honestly say that I'm shocked that you too felt this way about me. I hope you have a safe flight home. I ended the call and paced the hotel room, still trying to understand the situation, wondering if I deserved this treatment. I realized that 47 years of life had taught me that sometimes people hate for no apparent reason, motivated by jealousy or bitterness. This behavior is not unusual, but the last people I expected this behavior from were my own family. After crying for a while, I had a revelation that brought me back to the moment I made the decision to take charge of my life and seek revenge on those who had wronged me without cause. That moment would forever alter the trajectory of my life, and as I wiped away my tears, a renewed sense of resolve came over me. I refused to waste any more precious emotions on their actions. It was time to demonstrate to them that they couldn't crush my heart and get away with it. With shaking fingers, I dialed mine, knowing that I could confide in my childhood friend Arlo about my darkest secrets. I cautiously asked him if he could help me in my pursuit of justice. Arlo, who has always been a faithful and naughty friend, listened carefully as he spoke in a tone that was both excited and concerned, assuring me that he had my back. Felicity, my dear friend, you're a force to be reckoned with, and you know you can count on me for anything and everything. So where are you? He was curious, so I unraveled my plan like a carefully written script outlining how we would carry out the ultimate act of retaliation. Bags of sawdust would be delivered to Tiana's house, infiltrating every nook and cranny and leaving an enduring mark of chaos and treachery. Planning to do well, Arlo, you know how your construction company always has excess sawdust. Yes, it can be quite a hassle to get rid of sometimes, but I think I've found the perfect use for it. With my newfound resolve and Arlo's experience, we started our plan. However, the question arose, how would we get inside the house before they returned? You need to get the spare key hidden under the potted plant on the patio. Then you'll be in. Wow, you thought of everything. I'm not one to be played. Barlow couldn't help but smile at the brilliance of my idea, a subtle but impactful reminder to Tiana of the stress she had unleashed upon my life. As the hours went by, I was filled with anticipation. Arlo assured me that the mission was finished and soon I would see the fallout of our carefully planned chaos. Then, like a lovely melody in my ear, my phone rang with a message from Arlo. I excitedly opened the pictures he sent, and I was astounded to see that Tiana's once immaculate home now looked like a scene straight out of a surrealistic painting, the post-apocalyptic wasteland drowned in a sea of sawdust, with every nook and cranny touched by our mischievous hands. I called Arlo, and his laughter reverberated through the phone, and I couldn't help but join in. It was a cathartic release, a shared moment of triumph against those who had betrayed me. I thanked Arlo from the bottom of my heart, acknowledging his willingness to walk the path of mischief with me. I could feel the tension rising inside me as the clock ticked off, wondering how Frank and Tiana would react when they entered their once loved home. The anticipation was almost too much to handle, a heady mix of nerves and vindication, and I couldn't help but revel in the thought of their confused faces and jumbled emotions. Hours later, my phone exploded with frantic energy, and it was Frank, his voice laced with panic and disbelief as I listened to his frustrated voice, I realized that the message had been received loud and clear. Their actions had consequences, and the chaos they had sown had come back to haunt them. Felicity, it's just awful. Mom is in hysterics. I decided to reveal my role in this and said, it serves both of you right. How could you leave me here? The sawdust-covered house standing as a testament to their betrayal. I heard my mother-in-law say, give me that, before yelling in my ear. How could you do this to us, to me? I have no idea what you're talking about. Have you considered that this is just your karma? Come on, Felicity, we all know it was you. Who else would have access to my home? It's very easy to break into someone's home these days, Tiana in particular. Felicity, was this your doing, alone, without a valid reason, no less? Wake, Felicity. Felicity, how can you do this to us when we're supposed to be sleeping? The sawdust is hurting my lungs. Oh, that's right. You probably forgot to get the keys to my house. That's a shame. I wonder how long you two will have to stay in another hotel until I return from my vacation. If you don't have any security cameras installed, you should definitely consider doing so to prevent things like this from happening again. I paid for 2 weeks after all, and who knows? I might get greedy and decide to stay longer. Frank then took Tiana's phone, and she started crying again over her damaged furniture. Felicity, this was terrible. How could you do this? I don't know why you think I'm involved. I mean, how could I? I'm currently lounging in the hotel's jacuzzi. I suppressed my laughter because they were both obviously perplexed by what had happened. As I said goodbye to Frank over the phone, a feeling of satisfaction washed over me. I had taken control of my story, leaving them to deal with the consequences of their actions. I know what I did was quite foul and even dangerous considering how old Tana is. I mean, spending even a night in that house. They had no concrete proof, but I basked in the glory of knowing that they were frustrated but had nowhere to direct their anger. Could have major health repercussions, but I knew that they wouldn't dare dream of staying there because it was too sabotaged to be habitable. Instead, they had to rely on staying in a hotel for a little while longer because I didn't want my money to be wasted. I spent that extra week in Spain taking in the culture as planned, while my husband and mother-in-law were definitely anxious about finding a cleaning service that would take on such a difficult task for an unknown amount of time. This should serve as a reminder to some of you that some people have to learn the hard way, and if it just so happens that you can administer your own justice, then by all means. It would take time to have the house professionally cleaned, but I knew that in the interim my mother-in-law would have to stay with us in my home, and I knew that she would be irritated the entire time since she apparently canceled standing by my company. Implies that you should go ahead and give it your all. People have something to be angry about.